I want to start with a conclusion and then I'll illustrate. I told you this morning this is one of two powerful conversations I had. This was more scary than the first. Here's the conclusion. People don't sin because they think about sinning. People sin because they don't think about sinning enough. Let me ask you a few questions. Is it a sin to be tempted? Hebrews 4:15 says, we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but was in all points tempted as we are, yet without sin. So it's not a... See, I think that one of the problems, people get to feeling guilty too early. And they are tempted and they think about it and they say, man, that's a sin, shouldn't have done that. And I sinned again, and I thought about it again, and I sinned again. And man, as long as I'm guilty, might as well go ahead and enjoy it. Going to hell anyhow. Okay, is it a sin to be tempted? Most people did like that. All right, next question. Is it a sin to think about sinning? Just think about it. While you're working on that, let me ask you this. Have you ever been tempted to do anything that you've never thought about in your entire life? That'd be kind of hard, wouldn't it, if you hadn't thought about it? All right, we're going to dig a little deeper in the well, boys. Is it a sin to want to sin? Boy, whoopee, 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 that would be fun. Is it a sin to want to sin? All right, let me ask you. I like to ask questions. I don't know if you noticed that or not. Jesus asked a lot of questions. I heard Zig Ziglar speak 2 or 3 times, and he of course, was a sales trainer, and he said the best thing to do is to ask questions. Ask questions. And he said, I've got 4 books. If you'll read them, you can learn to ask good questions. And those books are Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And read the red. Jesus was the best questioner who ever lived. So let me ask you this question. Are you more tempted to do something you really like to do or something which is repulsive? Well, I'm tempted more to do what I like to do. Let me just confess to you. As far as I know, if I know my heart, I've never been tempted to eat blood pudding. That just never has appealed to me. You know, if you're a Gentile in Acts 15, they told Gentiles, don't y'all be eating blood. Got it, man. I've heard people over in the Carolinas sometimes go bear hunting and drain that and make blood pudding. Now, if Acts 15 had said banana pudding, I'd have a tough time with that. Listen to James 1. Let no one say when he is tempted, I'm tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, nor does he himself tempt anyone. But each one, notice, is tempted. Is it wrong to be tempted? We've already established that. Each man is tempted when he is drawn away by his own desires. Synonyms, lust, passions. What are we? Still in the temptation stage. Every man is tempted when he is drawn away by his own desires and enticed. We're still in temptation. Then when desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. There's where the sin comes. It's after it is conceived. Desire, not wrong, to want to sin. That's the only thing you're tempted to do is what you want to do. Desire is conceived. It gives birth to sin, and then when sin is finished, brings forth death. Now, 65% of you are thinking, well, what about Matthew 5:28? Does Jesus say if you lust after a woman, it's as bad as doing it? Is that what he said? Shake your head like that. The Bible say that money is the root of all evil. Shake your hand like that. The love of money is the root of all evil. And whoever looks at a woman to lust after her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Let me illustrate. See, is it a sin to look at a woman? If it was, I'd have to have somebody lead me around all the time. It's a sin to look at a woman to lust after her. Suppose I'm driving into that same neighborhood where the policeman stopped me while I was running barefoot, and I'm driving this time, and there's a good-looking woman right there. I said, woo, she's a good-looking woman. And I'm driving up. I said, I wonder if she's as good as I thought she was. I think I'll drive around and see. Yeah, man, she's good. I believe I'll drive around again, and I drive around till I get dizzy. Just keep on looking to keep on lusting after that woman. That's a sin. Okay, premise. People don't sin because they think about sinning. People sin because they don't think about sinning enough. Now, let me tell the story. It was an afternoon. I'd talked with this lady several times, a good Christian sister. And one day, just nonchalantly, without any anger, any emotion, any emphasis, she said, Jerry, I'm thinking about killing my husband. You know what my first considered response was? Stop it! In 15 years, I would, why, you can't do that? You're a Christian. Don't you ever let me hear you say something like that again. Why would anybody ever think, anybody knows it'd be a... But I had been studying this idea of people don't sin because they think about sinning. People sin because they don't think about sinning enough. I decided with fear and trembling to examine that proposition. So I followed that up with, why you want to kill him? And she started telling me. And she talked, and she talked, and she talked, and she talked. And by the time she finished, I was about willing to say, would it be all right if I helped you? But I didn't. Next question. How you going to kill him? She said, I don't know. I said, well, you thought about it. Wait. She said, I just hadn't made up my mind. I said, well, we're just talking. What are you going to shoot him? She said, oh, no. That's much too quick and merciful. No. She said, now, this is not it. I'm still thinking, but the best thing I've come up with, if I could get him out in the woods somewhere in a cabin and tie him down to a table right on his back where he couldn't move. If I could take a pair of small needle-nose pliers and just start skinning him a little bit every day. She said, that's the best thing I've come, but that's not it. I want something better than that. Next question. Do you own any needle-nose pliers? She said, no, I don't. Are you going shopping for any needle-nose pliers after we get through talking? She said, no, I'm not planning that. I said, okay. Would you promise me that if you ever think about going shopping for needle-nose pliers or any other way to kill your husband, would you promise to call and talk to me before you go shopping? She said, yeah, I'll promise that. I said, well, when you make a promise, do you usually keep your word or do you do something different? She said, no, that's the truth. I said, all right, here's what that means. If I'm on an airplane, you got to wait till I land. And my secretary and my wife always have my itinerary. You got to wait till I land and we'll talk about it. And if I'm convinced you're going to start to kill him, I'm going to call him and tell him to run. I will not be a part of your plan. I said, okay. You killed your husband if you carry out your plan. Are you going to go visitation at the funeral home? She said, yep. I'm going to visitation, and I'm going to walk up to the casket, and I'm going to put my hand on his hand, be sure he's cold. That man's lied to me about everything else. He'd lie about this. He thought he'd get by with it. I said, are you going to the burying? She said, I'm going to the burying. I'm going to the funeral. I'm going to the burying. And I'm going to sit there. They put the last clod of dirt on him. I said, okay, they will arrest you and put you in jail when they find out about who did it. Would it be okay if Gail and I come to visit you once a week while you're in jail here in town? I said, the sheriff here lets me make one contact visit with people that I know once a week. She said, yeah, that'll be all right. I said, okay. They will convict you of first-degree murder. This is not a thing of passion. You've been planning this just cold and hard for a long time. And they will send you to a penitentiary, and we don't have a penitentiary anywhere near here. Will you write and let me know how you're doing? She said, yep, I'll write and let you know how I'm doing. I said, okay. Hope you don't do it, but if you do, I'll be concerned about how you're making it. Who's going to raise the children? She said, my mama. You and your mother don't agree on how your children need to be raised. I know enough about that. She said, I know it. I've thought about that. But I hope that my children remember enough of what I taught them that they'll do what I taught them instead of what Mama would teach them. Has God talked to you and assured you that your mother will not die until after your children are 21 years of age? She said, no, he hasn't told me that. I said, what if Mama died? Oh, me, if Mama's die, my sister to get my kids, I wouldn't have my sister raise my kids for anything in the world. I said, well, you said it. God hadn't told you. You might want to think about that. And so she left. We set an appointment to talk the next week. She came in the next week, and she started talking. We talked. I said, I'm not listening very well. We had a very heavy topic on the table last week about killing your husband. How you coming along with your plans? She said, well, I ain't going to do that. He ain't worth it. She said, I was thinking about him 24 hours a day. All the time I was awake, I was having nightmares at night. I just turned him over to the Lord. I said, praise the Lord. Last week we were dealing in stolen merchandise. Romans 12 says, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. You know what my conclusion is? People don't sin because they think about sinning. People sin because they don't think about sinning enough. And one of the best things we can do for our friends and relatives and anybody else is not just tell them to stop it. Let them think about it enough. How do you think about sinning enough? Choices, consequences. Choices, consequences. Would you like to know my hack for overcoming temptation? Best one I've come up with. I'm tempted to do things sometimes. Here's my hack. I think about doing it. And then I know that if I do something wrong and bad enough, I'll get caught. And they will arrest me. And they'll print it in the Nashville Tennessean. And Forrest Sanders, who made that video, will come out from Channel 5 News and interview me. And my kids and wife and grandkids will hear about it, and they'll say, Granddaddy, why did you do that? I don't want those consequences. And then there's judgment to come. And I don't want that. Think about it. Have you thought about the choices you made up to this point of time and the consequences? Many of you have. You said, it's going to be tough to follow Jesus. Maybe my relatives oppose it. Friends may make fun of me. But wow, the retirement plan is out of this world. If you've not made the right choices, think about the consequences. If you need to make adjustments, come as we say.